incredible stage presentation, and of course, a fantastic stage makeup. And while audiences love their music, the biggest question was who was really behind the makeup and what did the band really look like? Well, in just a minute, you're going to meet the members of KISS face to face, exclusively here on MTV. But first, take a look at this.
Rock and roll's longest masquerade and one of its biggest mysteries came to an end.
As we began to record Lick It Up, we thought about getting a manager to replace Bill. Up to this point, Howard Marks had taken over the business aspects of Bill's job, and we were basically managing ourselves. So we went to see a famous manager in LA and told him that we had decided to take the makeup off. "Why don't you keep it on half your face?" he said. "On half of my face?" That was when we realized how out of touch and out of sync most people were with KISS.
We've been doing this for 10 years, and sometimes you have to do something new, something fresh.
In the middle of recording the album, more or less out of nowhere, Paul pulled me aside and said, "Gene, I think it's time to take our makeup off."
So here we are, more beautiful than ever.
After all, Creatures was a good album. The problem was that people were listening with their eyes instead of their ears. If people didn't like what they saw, it was unlikely they were going to like what they heard. Agreeing to take the makeup off was, understandably, much harder for Gene. It was easier for me to do than for the guy with a ponytail on top of his head spitting blood all over the stage.
You know?
But when Creatures failed, common sense led us to the conclusion that we simply had no choice. Taking off the makeup gave us the best chance to continue. Even so, Gene didn't agree to jump until we were at the edge of the cliff. It was a leap of faith that was necessary for our own survival.
His reasoning was sound. With all the personnel changes, we had moved farther and farther away from the plausible characters. Vinnie Vincent's character, the Wizard, wasn't sticking with fans the way the Demon or the Star Child had.
Oh, yeah.
"Let's prove something to the fans," Paul said. "Let's go and be a real band without makeup." I reluctantly agreed. I didn't know if it was going to work or not, but I heard what Paul was saying.
When people gave us kudos or told us we had guts for doing it, I was the first to say that we didn't do it for anything other than our own survival. There was no alternative. I was also still reeling from finding out about Donna's marriage. I felt dazed and numb. I was seeing a psychiatrist at the time, and in the middle of a conversation one day he said, "The best thing to help you forget a woman is another woman." That was one of the most eye-opening things I ever heard during a therapy session. I was like, "What? That's not deep. Really?" I was looking for some Zen piece of advice, and this caught me totally off guard. Well, okay, I guess I can go with that.
When I was a kid, I used to, fly all the time.
After that session, I thought to myself that maybe one way to feel better was to write a song about feeling better. The best way to move forward might be to sing a song about moving forward. I read somewhere that when Beethoven wrote his Second Symphony in 1802, a piece that as a kid I found extremely uplifting, he was suicidal. Maybe I could write myself out of a funk too. Even though there was an excitement about taking off the makeup, it didn't mean our music had to change. We had been happy with the production on Creatures and felt confident working with Michael James Jackson again, continuing to build on our return to rock and roll.
When we started working on Lick It Up, it was a good time musically. We had Michael James Jackson producing once again, and Vinnie Vincent was our guitarist and a contributing songwriter. Vinnie and Paul were particularly successful during this period. The two of them wrote Lick It Up, the title track from that album.
I did like Vinnie a lot, And the thing about Vinnie, Vinnie is much more talented overall than Mark is.
Eric was my little buddy. I loved him. Everybody loved Eric. He was a sunshine, And he was a great drummer. And I hate drummers. I fucking hate drummers, man, more than anything. Because they don't know how to play a drum beat. Eric knew how to play a beat.
Dude. Vinnie can sing. He's got a great voice. He's an excellent writer. And with the proper control of himself, he can play some really, really great guitar licks.
I don't know.
With our band, he just was kind of trying to outdo himself all the time. And he wound up being worse than what he really was. And even though, Gene and Paul and I helped him through his solos and kind of, structured them with him, there's a lot of him on there.
Nah.
Working in context of what the band was. I'd say that I give them credit for knowing more than me.
I've always played guitar, played in a lot of heavy metal bands, and been doing it until I met these three knuckleheads, and I became the fourth knucklehead.
Right. Vinnie and I wrote the song Lick It Up in my place on 80th Street in the music room with its now empty lighted guitar cases. Before we wrote, we tried to figure out what sort of thing we were going to try to do, and the therapist's words rang in my ear. We quickly came up with the title Lick It Up, which sounded great. Life's a treat, and it ain't a crime to be good to yourself.
Fuck a lot of women. Huh? Fuck the guitar. Go for that puss. Just do it.
It was a universal sentiment and something that I still certainly believed, whether or not I was living it every minute. It sure felt better than singing a song about being sad. Plus, the act of writing a great song, regardless of its sentiment, made me feel good. That was part of seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. That was part of working my way out of the darkness. Creating was a way I was able to reestablish my footing.
I had no idea I never listened to a Kiss album in my life, and I didn't like them. To me, it was just learning a song, and that's it. Try to play the leads like Ace did.
Hi.
And okay, I'll do my best. And then that was it.
Can you play it?
No. You know, for people that lived Kiss, it was different for them. For me, I didn't. Huh? So I was just learning a song. Hey. But I get it, you know. But I'll tell you what, a few songs I loved. There were some songs I actually did love. Bottom line, it was a ball.
No. Other songs on Lick It Up, like A Million to One, cued more closely to how I was feeling. I think we all like to believe we're irreplaceable in a relationship and that nobody will ever give the person we love what we did, and A Million to One came out of that sentiment. Of course, it was a bit unrealistic and self-serving in addition to not being true.
And one day, I remember playing Not for the Innocent. I says, yeah, that's a great song. I like that. It's got a thing. I don't know. Yeah, all right. Yeah, okay, good.
Huh? We did a photo session just to see what it would look like. We looked straight into the camera lens. We were defiant. I made one small concession to the fans. I stuck out my tongue to try to keep something that connected us with the past, to remind fans that we weren't a brand new band.
As the album neared completion, I felt excited when I saw the proofs of the cover. There we were. It was a declaration of sorts, and for all we were leaving behind, it was really saying something. I thought we were making a statement about the band and about the validity and credibility of it in our own eyes. Taking off the makeup said something about how much we valued the band. We could have just thrown in the towel and gone home. Instead, we were willing to shed our armor. We were considered uncool at a network whose taste was led by a bunch of college interns. Suddenly, when we unmasked ourselves, all that changed.
This is a really big moment. After 10 years together, exclusively here on MTV this evening, we are going to see Kiss without their makeup for the very first time. Vinnie Vincent, lead guitarist and co-writer of many of the songs on the current Kiss album. Eric Carr, drummer, has been with the band since 1979. And Kiss is, by the way, the very first band that Eric has ever been with. Paul Stanley, rhythm guitarist and lead vocalist. Paul is a co-founder of the group. Gene Simmons, bass, also co-founder of Kiss. He is the fire-breathing, blood-spitting monster of Kiss. Welcome, you guys. This is amazing. Whoa. No, it's so funny because just seeing you for the very first time after all this time, we're honored and we're really glad to have this exclusive.
We decided to unveil ourselves live on MTV. First, superimposed over our faces, were photos of us in full Kiss makeup. As the VJ announced each of our names, the makeup photos dissolved to our bare faces. We made the best of it, but I was scared stiff.
I think people are looking for real involved answers, and basically we did it because we felt it was time to do it. It just felt good, and we tend to do things when the feeling's right.
The official unveiling was made on MTV. Although it's a dramatic departure for the group, the decision to break from tradition was unanimous.
I think at first, there are going to be some people that wish that, it would stay because they don't want things to change. They get used to something and that's the way they want it to stay forever, But I think if you ever want to grow, you have to be true to yourself first and do what you feel is right.
And whether the fans feel it's right will be decided on their international tour, which begins in Europe in October and moves to the United States in December.
MTV finally embraced us at some level. We came up with a made-for-MTV unmasking. If you think about it, it was really just the unmasking of me and Gene. The other two guys were pretty much unknown commodities. That's not meant to disparage Eric or Vinnie, but having played on an album that barely registered in the pop consciousness, they weren't much of a draw as far as unmasking went. For most people, Kiss was still the Catman, the Spaceman, the Star Child, and the Demon. But the cat was already out of the bag, so to speak, as was the Spaceman.
Yeah.
So in this case, to a certain extent, we sold a lot of sizzle without a very big steak.
You